The UFC had a big announcement today. Daniel Cormier, Anthony "Rumble" Johnson going to renew their rivalry at UFC 210 in Buffalo. That's going down April 8th. These two put on an epic fight at UFC 187, as you well remember. Who do you think the UFC is rooting for in this matchup?
It's such a hard call because they love Daniel Cormier. Cormier now is a polished broadcaster, so he's really associated with the UFC brand. But the bottom line is this. He's not the most popular champion, and it has nothing to do with his skill set, which is arguably second only to Johnny Bones Jones in the light heavyweight division. It's because he's a wrestler. As you saw there, he grinded out Anthony "Rumble" Johnson the first time they fought. Rumble hit him with a right hand that bounced Daniel Cormier literally across one end to the other end of the octagon. And if it wasn't for the bell, he might not have survived that round. We could have had a new champion that night. And again, not many people even survive Rumble's right hand, let alone come back from it the way Cormier did and then submit Rumble Johnson, as you saw. So to answer your question, they're rooting for Rumble. The UFC's rooting for Rumble because if Rumble Johnson wins, that would set up, if Johnny Bones Jones keeps his act together and clean, right? And we can get him back inside the octagon. His suspension should end up around July. The timing could work out for a Rumble Johnson, Johnny Bones Jones
epic showdown. Is that what you want to see?
I do want to see it because I've seen Cormier lose to Johnny. I've seen Rumble lose to Cormier. What we haven't seen is what would happen with Rumble and Johnny Bones Jones. So, yeah, it would make sense. The problem is, does Johnny need another comeback fight like he had against Ovid St. Preux after he came off from his last layoff? Or it's like, all right, I've just been away so long. Screw it, let's go, Rumble, if Rumble wins and the UFC gets their way. Because they really could promote that one. Look, Daniel Cormier against Johnny Bones Jones in a rematch would be epic as well. I just don't know if it would be as big as the first time ever seeing Rumble against Johnny, a fight that some fight fans, at least in the light heavyweight division, have been waiting for upwards of 5 years now. I mean, that's how far back you can go when Johnny was the champion and Rumble was the up-and-comer, and he was the kid of the group. And now Rumble's been around there, and he's been waiting and waiting to get that shot at Johnny Bones, and then Johnny takes himself out of the equation with his out-of-the-octagon issues. So I think if the UFC had their druthers and you gave them some truth serum, they'd say, perfect world, Rumble beats Cormier, Johnny comes back, Rumble, Johnny, let's get it on and see who is, in fact, the best light heavyweight in all of the world. But again, it's not a bad consolation prize if it is Daniel Cormier retaining the belt and then fighting Johnny Bones for a second time. The key is Johnny Bones Jones. You got to get back
one factor
into this equation either way. Exactly. Because after that, let's say that Cormier wins this fight against Rumble again. What's next? What do you do next? Because we've seen the Glover Teixeiras, we've seen the Alexander Gustafssons in the light heavyweight division. It's a very good division, but Cormier is like, well, I've kind of beaten most of those guys. So what's there left for me to do in the light heavyweight division?
Got to have something to hype.
And I do kind of get the feeling that Cormier might not want to keep doing this for year after year, waiting for John Bones Jones, waiting for... At some point, it's going to be like, oh,
all right,
I'm done waiting.
You missed your window.
Yeah, that window's closing. So I think in their heart of hearts, they'd love to see Rumble and Johnny Bones later on in 2016.